ever heard of the 39 steps?
No, what's that, a pub?
Are you sure it was yellow cake?
Y'all niggas don't believe me. I got some yellow cake right here.
I thought, I'd wonder what he means. I said to him, what did you say? And he said, oh, these days, if you say you're English, you get
arrested and thrown into jail.
What you need to do, I don't understand anything at all. No. But something is working.
Something's working now.
No, with this podcast sound in general, something is working.
Oh, okay. Great.
Like the sound has not been bad.
Yeah.
But right, I don't know what that is, and so I'm very scared to mess around with anything.
It's a delicate
because there's two things.
Like the negotiations upcoming.
Just shut. No one cares about Iran, all right? This is about the podcast. It's serious. This is serious business, Matt. Stop with your frivolity. I don't know
if you want... Shorts has never been hit so hard. With
I don't know if you want to keep this in.
Laughter.
Do you even want to hear this?
Informancy.
Do you want me to tell you this later, or do you never want to hear about this? This is like below your pay grade. I don't want to know about the fucking all the technical labor that you do to make this podcast work. I'm the star. I just come in. I swan in. Oh, headphones be damned.
Yeah.
I'll say what I want to say. Drop the mic. I'll leave. You'll be lucky that I even came at all. Is that what you're saying?
That's kind of what I'm saying.
All right, do you want
to... I got shit to do, man.
Woo. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right then. No, so let's feverishly speculate about the future of Iran and Israel in an attempt to one day monetize this podcast kind of thing. So here we go, Matt.
Yeah. Okay. Good. The
floor is yours.
Oh, I don't know. What would the advertisers want us to say?
No. We want to say the most extreme, shocking thing that we can that can go viral to try and puncture the algorithms and break away from all the other fucking podcasts that are being made. That's what you want to do, Matt.
How about it'll all be fine? Don't worry, kids. Just have a nice little sip on your chamomile tea. And bear in mind that we keep escalating with these... nuclear threshold states or nuclear powers, and it's been fine for the last 2 or 3 years, hasn't it? So why shouldn't it be yet again?
I mean, that is quite an out there take at this point, to be fair.
There you go. Let's get Nescafe on the advert.
But you need more energy.
Oh, okay, right. What do you think's going on? What do you want to say about it?
Me?
Yeah, you.
No, I want you to do that again about it all being fine. But with the energy of like...
Have you ever realised that we keep
No, you need to start with a question, like a leading question.
Oh, this is how YouTube works.
Yeah.
Are you worried about Iran? Are you worried?
Are you worried about car finances? Have you had a car financed in the last 10... All right, yeah, that was good. Keep going.
Have you invested in gold? Isn't it time that you invested in gold? It's time to invest in gold because we're about to obliterate.
No. Because it's time to invest in gold because everything's going to be fine.
Oh yeah, sorry. Have you ever considered investing in arms? Because it's time to invest in arms.
Because we need the arms.
Because in about 2 weeks, America is going to need to make 4 new massive bunker buster earth penetrators.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about investing in bunkers?
Yeah, well. Yeah. I think probably quite a few people have actually. All the billionaire elite.
Doesn't the bunker buster? Doesn't that just completely destroy any hope in terms of the whole thing with nuclear war? Is well, at least some people will be in a bunker. Well, no. What you do is you fire a bunker buster followed by a nuclear bomb, and then you get everybody right.
Yeah, I'm not sure that these billionaires are going to survive the apocalypse. And I appreciate that the advertisers might be rushing away at the moment, but unfortunately,
no, they're really interested.
All those bunkers. One of the problems with bunkers is that because they're underground and then there's a thermonuclear explosion above them, and they're made out of metal, they just turn into ovens. So the people in the bunkers just get cooked.
I mean, they could go into space. That's obviously the
space,
anyway.
Yeah, but that's probably Yeah, you can't. It's quite difficult.
I mean, I've been watching a lot of shit on Twitter, and apparently some of these hypersonic missiles have been intercepted. They said they couldn't be intercepted. I don't know what to believe, but they said they couldn't be intercepted, and apparently they were intercepted in space.
I mean, I just about that because no one has said that before. That sounds like a story put out by the military to.
I don't think it was put out. It was put out by some crackhead. I mean, it wasn't like the stuff on Twitter is so insane, and it's partly because there's no footage because both Iran and Israel are like not letting anybody see what's actually happening. So you go on Twitter and those horrible kind of AI images of Tel Aviv being obliterated by just thousands of rockets, and some like even though there's like an Iranian man very close to Tel Aviv laughing. It's just outside the city centre.
Yeah, actually, I saw Colonel McGregor, who's quite good mainstream commentator. He said that a third of Tel Aviv had been destroyed. This was a few hours ago. Now, I cannot believe that is accurate, but for that to be reported by a kind of mainstream.
That's crazy. He
said a third of Tel Aviv had been destroyed, by which he meant buildings either destroyed or damaged. But even so, even if it's just damaged, that would still be an enormous amount of a city.
I mean, I think
affected. I don't think that can be correct.
I want to say something definitive. I can't. I mean, it could be the case that there is a lot more damage in Israel than is being reported. There probably is more. Rather than less, but. Who fucking knows what's going on? It's so incredibly because you've got, as I say, you've got the complete closing down of any actual reporting, and on top of that, you've got heavily biased media who want to be really compliant with the Israeli authorities, and then you've just got all this shit on Twitter. Just filling the void.
I mean, I remember if you go back a bit of time, I think it was in the Kosovo War in 1999, and even John Pilger, who was a very, very reliable reporter, he said that he thought that 30 American planes had been downed. This was right at the height of the kind of rumor mill and when people didn't know, and of course maybe one plane had been downed, but he was saying, well, I've heard from this source that 30 have been down. So it's very easy. This was 25 years ago. It's very easy, even in a somewhat more analog space, let alone in the era of AI, for this nonsense to come out. So I think it's a bit of a fruitless task in a way to kind of speculate. What we do know, I think, is that both sides have landed blows, that there are hundreds of casualties, that Israel has been has damaged more, but that Iran still seems to be going. This is not Iraq 2003. The Western power has not been able to destroy all air defenses, all missile systems within a few days. But that said, I think perhaps the big headline is that Israel does seem to have control of the skies, from what I can see. Like any missile defense systems from Iran's position don't appear to be working, but they do still seem to be able to chuck missiles at will into Tel Aviv and elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the insanity of, I mean, the real images that you do get of like the Iron Dome intercepted. It's just so insane, and it all happening over urban areas. Mm-hmm. And it just reminds me of 200 years ago when it was like the tactic was like cannons firing over, and then you had mortar shells in World War One. And now it's like, I don't know if you ever saw that Itchy and Scratchy, where they're both like hammering each other and they're getting bigger and bigger. And at the end, they're both the size of the earth, hammering over the earth.
I do remember that, yeah.
And it's just that image of like Iran lobbing stuff across the earth, Israel lobbing stuff across the earth. And, the whole of the Middle East is the Somme. It is the war zone. It's
that Itchy and Scratchy cartoon is the perfect metaphor and dramatization for mutually assured destruction, isn't it? It's fantastic.
Well, it's it's the fact that it used to be, gentlemen in nice pressed red jackets marching in the field, which no one gave a shit about in the middle of nowhere. It's the move from that being war to, the Blitz in London and whatever, to now it's just civilian, it's just fucking civilians and robots. I saw, it's robots versus civilians.
I saw Konstantin Kissin yesterday speculating about the use of ground troops, and there's been a bit of talk elsewhere about the use of ground troops. I mean, I'm not sure if that seems so outlandish. Like, I can't see how there can be ground troops. There's a massive space of 1,000 miles or something between the two countries, and I can't really see how the Americans are going to land any ground troops. This is all going to be in the air, from what I can see. It's all going to be air power, one way or another. So yeah.
Well, I mean, there was that. I don't know if you watched the Duran yesterday. They were talking.
No, I haven't seen that for 2 or 3 days. What are they saying?
They were talking about an article in Axios, apparently claiming that if they can't bust a bomb or whatever the fucking
they might use a nuke.
I mean, this is the fucking images, like the stuff with the Iron Dome, and then the computerized images of this underground bunker. It reminds me of the Resident Evil movies. And have you ever saw any of those where the Umbrella Corporation have these insane, like the whole world is gone, but they've created these insane underground labs they have to get down. And it's like, so there's this underground lair, like a James Bond thing. They're going to try and bomb that. If they can't bomb it, according to this article, the Americans, actually it might be the Israelis even, are going to send in.
Could do it.
They're going to send in like a commando unit.
Yes,
to then go and bomb. But I mean, as whatever his face was saying on the Duran, if that were the case, they're unlikely to have leaked that, because those sort of missions, the whole thing is the element of surprise. And then if they have leaked it, then it's probably because they're not going to do that. They're going to actually bomb Tehran or something like that.
I'd have thought that they would just do the bunker busting idea. That's been out.
No, but they're not sure that can work. That's the point.
But I know, and I'm obviously speaking as a non-scientist, but I'd have thought that if you just because bunker busters can only penetrate whatever it is to 60 meters, and the facility is 90 meters below ground, you'd have thought if you drop 4 of these fucking things, it's going to cause quite a lot of trouble. It's going to cause the rooms to shake a bit. You've got nuclear materials there. They're going to go chicka 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 chicka.
Yeah, I'm not a scientist.
It's going to be a very delicate operation, and you can't have personnel operating in a mountainside that's having the world's biggest bombs dropped on it multiple times, and the threat of that happening at any point. So I don't think they can in practical terms, people have they definitely, at least at the Fordow facility, they're going to have a fire alarm that day. Do you know what I mean? They're going to have to march out and like stand in the playground with their with their flasks and their lunch boxes.
I'm not sure.
They're not going to be like, oh, it's 30 meters away, that bomb. It's going to fuck up the plant.
Well, I don't think there's a fire exit that takes you like this buster bomb proof. Like it goes like 1,000 meters, and then you come out, and then you can watch the buster bomb like an AI generated.
Lemmings, but if you drop the bomb or the hand grenade or whatever it is, or am I thinking of the other one? There's Lemmings.
You're thinking of Worms.
I'm thinking of Worms. And Angry Birds. This is my experience in my military know-how.
Yeah, down with the kids. Angry Birds.
You can drop the bomb into the hole, and then you drop another bomb into the deeper hole.
Yeah, that's true.
So surely,
Worms, it's a good example, but it also kind of proves the point, because you drop the second bomb, and it doesn't quite land at the bottom of it kind of hits the side, and then you're going off in a diagonal direction. Yeah. It's much more like in theory, when you look at it on Worms, you're like, I'm going to get them so easily. Yeah. I've got 2 shots. Yeah. I can't remember the rules now, but sometimes you get 2 things, don't you? I'll fire 2 bombs. It never works. Well, so if Worms has taught us anything, you need an elite commando. That was the one thing you didn't get.
You need a nuclear Worms.
The one thing in Worms you never got was an elite Israeli commando unit. There was a cheat code
the
where you could do anything.
Died, but we've just realised how to revive it. God, why didn't they do that? Elite Israeli commando unit on Worms.
I mean, you have to say, the horror of it all, like Israel has pulled a blinder in terms of like the intelligence that they had on these scientists that they've killed, the car bombing, the drones inside. Yeah. And all of this stuff, what's interesting is that it's not really, first thing that's not reported is there's just flat out against international law to attack nuclear sites. And that is just not being mentioned by any of the mainstream media. And all of this other stuff, the covert stuff that must have happened before the attack, none of that is really taken into account in the way that to understand what's going on, it's clear that this was planned a long time ago. And probably with US intelligence involvement. And almost certainly the US satellites and whatever were used for some of the bombing, right? So very much like what happened in Ukraine a month or whatever it was ago.
Yeah, with the attack on the Russian bombers. Yeah.
What was that called? Did that have a nice, cool name?
That did have a nice, cool name, which was Operation Spider's Web.
Oh, yeah, that's really great. And what was this one called?
Oh, I don't know. Can't remember.
Operation Worms. Worms Attack.
I thought you were serious there. I was like, wow, that's a coincidence. Operation Angry
Birds. Yeah. Well, yeah. So they. So what was I saying? Yeah. So it must have happened under Biden's administration. Again. And
yes,
people within the administration, within Trump's administration, and certainly with the intelligence units, they either didn't tell Trump or they told him, and they said, "There's nothing you can do about it. It's going to happen."
I think that my guess would be the latter. It's like the government has already signed off on this. The CIA and NSA and the military are already working on this. What are you going to do to stop it? What you, as an individual, even as president, are you going to try and stop these two operations? Or you you're gonna have to completely stick your neck out against every element of the bureaucracy. We've already got it signed by Joe Biden. That's what I think probably happened there. Maybe that's a slightly friendly reading of Trump, but the way that he sort of has backtracked and tried to sort of be like, I knew everything. I'm God. I'm the best. I'm definitely going to decide what to do about that because I knew what was going on.
Well, even by Trump standards, he's sounding a little bit. He's like when he said, "You don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do." Like he's trying to.
I only heard about it 2 minutes ago.
But he says it in his cocky like manner that he always does, but it starts to sound really weird when it just sounds insane. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. He's like bragging, I have no idea what's going on, and I like it. It's like, but I don't want to say. There is
a rationale to that, and which goes back to Nixon's madman theory, which is to sound insane if you're the American president. So I do get Trump's sort of idea there, but it's obviously it's incredibly inappropriate given what's happened. But it strikes me the fact that he's now given Iran this sort of 2-week window in theory that might be him trying to kind of grasp control again a bit from.
Yeah, let's talk about the 2-week window. I don't want to brag too much about this podcast, but I have to say, I mean, I'm very surprised. I'm probably the most surprised of anyone how well it's going, right? Firstly,
it has been amazing.
Shut up. The first thing, right? The one thing that isn't amazing about this podcast is the fact that I talk and no, the one thing isn't amazing is the fact that I talk. That is the main problem with it. No, is that you don't know how to have a conversation, right? You interrupt all the time, right? So do I, but it doesn't work two ways. If one person's interrupting the other person, that kind of works. But if we're both interrupting each other, it just becomes, you know what I'm saying? So just right, that's it. Wait till I've finished speaking. I'll give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and then you can say something. All right? No, the main thing is just give it a little pause. Yeah, a little. Just wait till I see if I finished, because sometimes my brain breaks and I sort of pause mid-sentence. So give it a little bit of time and then decide. Okay. Okay. So what's great about this podcast, right, is everybody's talking about Matt's face right now. What are you chewing? You can talk. Thumbs up.
Gum.
Great. Talking is over. So, what's great? Shut up! Jesus Christ. So,
Airwaves. Strawberry flavour.
Strawberry flavoured what?
I've got about gum. I've got about 150 of these.
And you think this is like...
secreted around
you
my
think
house.
this... Shut up. This is charming and like, oh, we're talking about gum when we should be talking
No,
about...
I just think that you can fucking edit.
I'm not editing anymore. I told you.
Oh.
Those days are over.
Okay, go on. What was your point? I won't interrupt ever again.
Woo! Everybody's talking about enriching uranium. I was going to say it wrong again.
Uranium.
I can't say
uranium.
it. Ah! Fuck. You say it. Enriching.
Everyone's enriching uranium.
No, they're not. They're talking about enriching uranium. No one's actually enriching it. Thank you. And we were talking about this a month ago. And we were talking about a war with Iran a month ago. And it's all thanks to you. I was really unsure why you were so obsessed with this story a month ago. And I was like, why is he talking about all this shit? This is not important. But now I'm like, this is fantastic. We were so ahead of the game in terms of what was going on. But another thing is that I talked about a while back was, actually I may have not talked about this, but I meant to, was Kennedy and the Bay of Pigs. We certainly were talking about Yankees versus Cowboys in that book by some guy that I can't remember. But when he discusses the issues of Kennedy coming in and the factions in the US, one of the things, so Kennedy came in as a Yankee against the cowboy establishment. And one of the issues he had coming in was that the Bay of Pigs had already been planned. And he didn't want to go through with it, but so much of it was already about to happen that he couldn't stop it. But what he could stop, I think, was US air support, or some element of it that really needed to be done in order for it to succeed. He stopped. So he kind of scuppered the whole thing. And in a way, you know, it meant that, you know, you could argue, well, if they were going to go ahead with it, they should have just gone the whole hog. Bay of Pigs, that's quite a good pun. No? Okay, and then...
Oh, yeah. Like Angry Birds as well.
Yeah. Anyway.
Pigs in it.
But he was really flat out against it. Yeah. And,
I think people should watch this podcast to look at my cringy,
it's increasingly a visual feast. What you enjoy here is Matt's expressions. But we have to give a little something to the listeners, Matt.
Yep.
Anyway, and that was my point. And my point with Trump is the same. He's come in, all of these plans are already in motion, and this 2-week thing that he's given himself, obviously, I mean, that's very much like our podcast as well. It's such an arbitrary, it's the sort of thing I would give you, like a 2-week deadline to decide something. But he's obviously trying to, like, the thing is, there is obviously already a plan to go into Iran. No one is coming up with a way of invading Iran or whatever their plan is in 2 weeks or in the last, like this idea that Israel strikes were a complete surprise. And then 2 days later, Trump was umming and ahhing about whether to out of the blue come up with an entire plan about how to bomb Iran and what they would do, what the 5-year plan for that would be. It's like, no, all of this is already there. And Trump is now deciding how much he's going to push back on that, if he's going to try and stop it entirely, if he's going to allow some elements of it to go. And that's what's going on. And so I think, you know, again, I kind of appreciate what you were saying last time. Like, in a way, you know, the way that the sort of liberal James O'Brien sort of people talk about it is the reason all this is happening is because of bad actors. It's because of Netanyahu and Trump and everyone who lives in Iran, because the entire Iranian population is a bad actor. But if those people didn't exist, then we would never get into these messes. Yeah. But obviously, what I think is more the case that these things are basically being planned throughout administrations. It's above all of that. And the people involved, all they can do is try in their limited time in office or whatever to they've got a little bit like Trump is the attack has fallen on Trump's time. It could have happened under Biden's time. It's happened under Trump's time, and now he's got to make a decision. Is he going to go in with this? Is he just going to, or is he going to fight the tide and all that might ensue? I mean, because I think if he completely abandons Israel in terms of the fight, like they're obviously going to defend Israel, but does not attack Iran, does not allow Israel to use American weapons. I think that would be very difficult for him in terms of his administration and the people that are around him and who he can trust, because that's such a defiant move against all of the sort of deep state stuff that you rely on, right? As somebody who you're just one part of the state.
Yeah.
So he probably will. He probably will attack Iran because he wants an easy life.
He's in a very difficult position because his MAGA base. I only heard an informal poll the other day, but it was something like 90% of the MAGA people are like, yeah, don't go into another forever war. I mean, I don't know if it would be quite that high in reality, but it's no one wants him to do that amongst the civilian population. But then, of course, a lot of the people who are his advisors, which he was fucking dumb enough to appoint, are advocating a hawkish foreign policy, and of course all the neocons are there as well. So he's in quite a difficult position. And I mean, it was one of the great things about the Oliver Stone films, the JFK referring to Cuba, the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, and his subsequent film Nixon, was to show that actually these presidents don't have they don't necessarily have a great deal of respect from their national security team and the oil barons and anyone else who might be in the state and in the elite. They're just one guy in one office, and the White House, the Oval Office, has got a lot of credibility, but you're still only one guy in a sea of opinion and interests and money and institutionalized power. So I do think that I suspect that your analysis is correct. We may not know for many years, but I suspect that Trump just feels I don't think he could possibly have wanted the Israeli strike, because despite his grandiose, I knew everything, I was all part of this. Oh yeah, it was came on the 61st day after I issued this threat. It's like, yeah, but you issue threats all the time. You could have made any old. You could have made if it had been today. You could have been like, yeah, well, 4 weeks and 5 days ago, I said another threat. And so to me, it looks like he's tried to maintain control, grab hold of the reins, grab hold of the narrative to keep himself still in charge, which is what he does all the time, which actually I don't think is actually a bad thing about his leadership style. He always tries to make it look like he is in charge.
Well, he takes responsibility.
That often makes him look delusional. Like one of my old colleagues keeps saying that Trump always looks for the photo opportunity. Which makes him sound like he's very shallow. But actually, if you're the head of state, looking for the photo opportunity isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, you're just shallow as well.
If you're a leader, you kind of have to be that guy who says, oh, I'm coming in as a ceremonial person. I've got to make it look like I'm in charge. That's just kind of the way that leadership works, I think. So I don't think there's anything necessarily that bad about it. And I think that him giving himself these 2 weeks is at least an indication that perhaps he's not quite as bonkers as he seemed when he reacted to when he sort of reacted in a double downing way. These strikes are excellent by Israel a week ago. So I've completely lost any sort of political tick box for Trump. I'm completely disgusted by the fact that he's not pushed back properly against what Israel's done here. But I've still got this tiny hope maybe that this 2 week window might lead to negotiations. But the problem is I can't really see how it can happen, because how is Iran realistically going to respond to under these circumstances? I mean, can they really come to an agreement now? It just seems inexorably going towards an escalated conflict. So
I think they are going to try and bomb them into submission in one way or another. Where they, if for example, if it does get to the point where at least the regime is unstable because of what's happening, then they may come around to. I mean, it's a horrible way of doing things, and it won't be an agreement that'll last either, because it'll be built on the back of fear and instability. But,
and deception. That's the other problem, is that the major issue there was that Trump was so deceptive, or at least presented himself as being incredibly deceptive. Oh yeah, we were just doing the negotiations so that we could do a surprise.
Well, that's a crazy thing, because he wanted to get your headphones back on. He's the one. He's the one who wanted to.
It's hot here.
I know, I'm not enjoying it either. We'll have to have a meeting about headphones after this meeting, or whatever this is. But yeah, I mean, they...
Deception.
Whatever. I was going to talk about... did you hear the thing from Merz, the German guy?
Olli Merz, or the president of...
I can't remember which one it was, but one of them said...
Reichschancellor.
That Iran needs to get back to the negotiation table.
Yes.
This was like 2 days after Israel had just killed the negotiator. And the framing is that Iran needs to de-escalate and come back to the table. It's just absolutely insane framing. But yeah, in terms of deception with Trump... Like, he'd rather... I don't think he was being deceptive, right? Deceptive, is that the word? You know what I mean? Like, we were just saying that he's probably, if not taken by surprise, was at least put in a position where he didn't want the strikes to happen, but they were going to happen, right? And then so afterwards, he's like, oh, I meant to do that.
Yeah, no, that's what I think, yeah.
But and so he'd rather pretend to be a dickhead. Pretend to be a dickhead.
He really took one for the team. I'm more of a dickhead than those guys.
It's like Dark Knight. You know, where he Batman pretends to be a dick. It's like he's not the president we want, but he's the president we need. And you see Donald Trump like running, like Batman at the end. I don't know where he's running at the end of that film. He's just running.
We need Gary Oldman to be like, Donald, I never thanked you. And you never will have to. Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Probably got enough money to get one of those cool cars. The Bat car.
Batmobile.
The Batmobile. Not the Bat car. The Batmobile.
Which actually sounds worse. Batcars makes more sense. Batmobile sounds really stupid.
Yeah. Well, it was. I think it was meant to be.
Because it was funny. Well, they probably came up with the name in the 50s, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was Adam West, who was quite amusing, wasn't he? I think
best Batman still to this day.
Yeah, he's excellent. Yeah.
Did you ever watch that Johnny Bravo episode where it's Johnny Bravo teams up with Adam West? It's like an animated. That is the best episode of Johnny Bravo, and I'm not on that Johnny Bravo's that great, but that episode.
But maybe we should put it in the links.
Yeah, links below for all the important topics we've discussed. I bet the whole thing is on YouTube.
So one of the things that annoyed me about the you said about what are you saying about the comment
Johnny Bravo?
West, commentary on Iran. You said how annoying it was that
Trump pretended to own it when he.
Anyway, it was linked. So when you do this elaborate edit,
there's not going to be any edits, Matt.
So I watched Rory Stewart and Alistair flipping Campbell the other day, and they were talking about Iran. They were talking about Netanyahu having discussed the Iranian nuclear threat as being imminent for the last 20 years. And I'm like, no, it's the last 33 years. And it's really frustrating.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah, you saw my thing. So it's frustrating that they do that, because it just minimizes always what the actual nightmarishness of this situation actually
they were saying that. Well, one of them was saying, I think Alistair Campbell, and what's his chops? The other one was like, if maybe you're right. I concede you could be right. And his point was, maybe they killed the negotiator.
Yes, maybe they killed the negotiator because they wanted to
negotiations. They just killed him because it was a safety risk. They had to go.
Yeah. So that's one of the ways that these kind of commentators deal with stuff, is that they say, well, yeah, this, and the BBC does it all the time. Yeah, this might be this, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt on this, or let's consider some other options. Yeah, it's good to have to look at things from multiple points of view. But if you murder the negotiator on the day before the talks are due, that means that you're trying to kill the negotiations. There is no equivocation on that. You have to come to some kind of you have to evaluate and say,
well, they wouldn't. The thing was, at the very least, you have to take that idea seriously, that could be what they're doing. But what they did was they posited that that's a possibility, but what they should take seriously and actually discuss was that wasn't the case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But let's take seriously the completely inaccurate idea. A little bit like what bloody Ted Cruz was doing with on the interview with Tucker Carlson the other day. It's like, they spend about 20 minutes talking about this assassination attempt on Donald Trump by the Iranians. Now, this has really come out of the blue. The idea that those two assassination attempts, one on a golf course and one
of them had his hair in Ukrainian flag colors.
Yeah. Oh, what that Iranian hitman who was masquerading as a Ukrainian rent boy or whatever's going on these days in this
shit. Yeah, that is a good link.
So it's like, how no one has said this except for what sounds like an intelligence official may have said to Ted Cruz, oh, it was the Iranians. Because he couldn't give any details. He didn't know the nationality of the hitmen. He didn't know the result of it. He didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know a name. He didn't know it. It was all just some intelligence official had said to Ted Cruz, from what I can see, oh, yeah, that was Iran, who tried to murder Trump last year. Well, if that's your standard of evidence, you're always going to come to fucking ridiculous conclusions then, aren't you? So this is why it's important to check that kind of stuff, else you just end up with sort of lunatic ideas.
Well, this is the thing with
had the mental capacity really to handle it.
Countries like Israel and certain institutions that dictate the narrative, because they just say something and it's not checked.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of independent journalists or mass protests to like push against it, and then the BBC will be like, maybe we should check if what Israel's intelligence service is actually telling us is true. And it's like, you should do that straight away. And the thing is, when it comes to Hamas, you immediately dismiss it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, how about you just check both of them as you get the information? It's like... And so you get this really skewed version of events where things like... So I was reading Thingy Gardner, the BBC war guy.
Oh,
Frank the Constant Gardner, yeah. And his report of what's going on, it's just like so like Israel they need to go in and bomb the nuclear sites of Iran because of the immediate threat. Will the UK be involved? And it's like always, so the one question is, will the UK be involved? But everything else, all those other things are also questions. But in his eyes, they're not. That's just the context. That's just taken. That's one of the main things I find with journalism is like the presupposition within any question. So it's like a classic example of that is, how can Labour deal with the anti-Semitism problem? Rather than, is there a fucking problem in the first place, right?
Yeah. And so you see, framing, isn't it?
It's the framing. And so it's how far already, and in fact, that's how you know when it's over, is when the framing is already in the question, you've already lost. And you see it so
done.
often.
Yeah, absolutely.
On so many issues.
I saw Channel 4 news guy interview Gideon Levy the other day, yesterday I think it was, on Channel 4 News, and it's interesting how when these journalists are actually faced with someone who does know what they're talking about, who does and they have got time to explore it. This was a half-hour interview, and Gideon Levy is sort of he's Israeli but kind of anti-war, sort of rational, a little bit like the ex Prime Minister, was it, or President Olmert, and they've got this. They don't want their country to be completely wrecked by their own insane foreign policy, and you go through that interview and you see that the Channel 4 guy, I've forgotten his name momentarily, he's the guy who usually presents it. He's basically just being like, yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense, yeah. And Gideon Levy's just like, yeah, we shouldn't be attacking Iran, we shouldn't be doing any of this mad shit. But of course, these voices are all very isolated. And the journalists usually, even the big name anchors, just don't have the time or inclination to go into those kind of explorations, even though they must know that that's really the answers are to not be completely mad and irrational.
Well, there was
don't have time to do it. Similar things happened with Jon Snow when he was presenting Channel 4 news in the past. Basically get him into a detailed discussion, and of course he admits that the military-industrial complex is a nightmare, and the what Blair was doing was but on a day-to-day basis they just trot through the same old framing for the sake of convenience. It's
this absence. It's like the framing, which then leaves this kind of gulf of information that's excluded from it. Yeah. And then also because you can different framings can, if you're like a history buff or whatever, or academic, you take a framing, it's almost like a way, it's like an exercise. You take a particular framing to see what it reveals.
Yes.
You don't believe that that's what's happening. Right.
No,
and
exactly.
So the problem is you have a framing by the media, which reveals certain things, I'm sure, but it doesn't explain what's going on at all. And so people then have this, they can't understand, they can't make sense of it. Like, who can make sense of Israel's actions based on what they get from the mainstream media? And so then obviously it gets into conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. The other problem, though, is that there are conspiracy theories, and they're also not in the framing. So you've got actual conspiracy theories that are taking place that are not covered by the mainstream media. Mm-hmm. And then you've got a framing by the media that doesn't make sense, that opens up the space for people to make up their own bullshit. Which, goes back to, that's what's happening on Twitter, where you've got a highly biased narrative about what's happening on which that Israel is absolutely dominating. And that might be the case. But based on my understanding of the media, I can't trust them, because they would always say what they would tell the Israeli intelligence line, and the Israeli intelligence are pushing out the idea that they are winning, right? But then there is an absence of actual footage of what's going on either side. So then you've got all of this just AI shit on bloody Twitter.
And then the best thing that we've got on perhaps the sort of best, most high quality, in-depth outlet, which is the BBC, is BBC Verify, where they make a big point of saying, do you know what, we're going to fucking verify some of this shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like
don't do that on all of it.
Yeah. When BBC Verify started up, I was like, so is this an admission that you have not verified anything for the last 60 years?
Before. Yeah.
And what is the Verify is they say the word verify. We verified it. And then they show you one of those, like, from those aliens from Arrival, sort of swirling in the mist. That's the mission. It's like a weird portal. And it's like, look at our graphic. We verified it. There's the swirl. What more do you want? And it's like, well, what does verify actually mean? Tell us what you've done to verify this actual thing. And it's basically, they've gone on Twitter like Tusi, and they've looked up like on the Wayback Machine when the video was first put out and stuff. Pretty basic stuff that anybody who's going to publish an article would do. That's what they're really proud of. They've made a whole show about.
Yeah. So and I think in combination with the framing, because really, if you're the issue about framing is that you need to be able to. It's like having a theory, isn't it? You present a theory, and there's the question in that. Is it right to go to war with Iran, or isn't it? But actually, I've completely fucked that bit up. But what I really mean is,
don't worry, we'll edit it out.
We can verify it later. Every news outlet is almost inevitably going to be simplistic if it's pushing a narrative, because the only way to get away from that would be to present a set of really conflicting narratives and conflicting questions, and then suddenly you're in this. You're not creating a news station; you're creating a dissertation.
You're creating a
confusing
sort of
and boring,
god-awful, insane podcast where the conversation never ends.
Yeah, actually, what you'd be creating
never
is
really
probably
begins.
This, but done better.
This with like flashier graphics, but certainly the exact level of interest from the public for sure.
Yeah. Beryl, we need a verify service. Oh, she said that she can verify that this is all wrong.
So, I don't know if you saw that there's been what's come out recently. The Centre for Media Monitoring has released a report on having looked at BBC journalism covering what's been going on in Gaza from October 2023 until October 2024.
Oh, brilliant. I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
Thank
looking
you.
at...
I will. Really
there's a
want to see
2-hour Instagram video of it that you can watch.
Wow.
I've downloaded it. You could have it'll take a long time.
You've not seen it yet.
I haven't watched all of it. All I watched was Peter Oborne's contribution.
Oh, yeah.
So they get the political editor of the BBC is there. He's like put up as those. You just see it so often, like the guy who has to sit and like take the shit.
Yes.
And just go like,
yeah. Poor old BBC does have that quite a lot.
He's like, yeah, you're so right. You're so right.
Yeah.
God. So right. It's like nothing will change, but this guy, all you get. This is like democracy. I mean, that's what the prime minister is, right? That's Starmer's job. Starmer he goes to fucking Bradford, and people are like, this place, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, then he leaves Bradford and never comes back. And that's the duty of being a leader. That's the difference between here and North Korea. Is that you get
that is exactly the difference. And I mean, to be fair, there is a bit of a difference there. Because,
I just said what it was. Yes.
Yeah. I think I think it is a bit meaningful because you do have a lot of people going around being like, oh God, what the fuck have we done? I hope we don't do that again.
Well, you say that on the eve of a new Iraq. You're saying, I hope we don't do that again. I mean, I don't think it really makes any difference.
Yeah, it's definitely very. Yeah, I know.
But the interesting thing about that is
your dubiousness.
The Iraq, obviously, what's happening now. So, two things. One thing we didn't mention was what people who don't buy into the idea that they sort of believe that Trump has complete control of what's going on.
Yeah. And
think that what's happening is that Israel has something on Trump, probably Epstein related.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you go down if you don't think that there is. But the other thing is, the other idea, kind of what I was positing, is that there is a deep state that's controlling everything anyway. So, the conspiracy theory is pretty much, because how else do you explain what is going on? And of course, the mainstream media, I mean, they're not even trying to even come up with an idea about what their idea is that Trump was surprised by his own satellites being used to fire missiles into Tehran. I don't understand how could America be surprised by Israeli military action? Doesn't make any sense. So none of it makes any sense. So you have, it's either deep state or it's either Israel controlling Trump or whatever. But you have these kind of conspiracy ideas about what's going on, because you don't have good coverage. Anyway, getting back to the BBC. So Peter Oborne was part of this panel, and he was going through all of the things that the BBC hadn't covered over this whole year, including talking to Avi Shleim, who's saying is probably the #1 Israeli historian in the UK, never been invited on the BBC to discuss Israeli history, Israeli politics, this whole time, right? Because he's very critical of the mainstream Israeli narrative.
Can I just observe that we've now mentioned 3 names on this podcast of senior and famous Israeli figures, including the ex-president Olmert and Gideon Levy, who actually are completely rational and sane and want the best thing for the region and for the world. And I know we keep getting told, and it is right, that Israeli public opinion is massively pro-war. But there are people who are out there who are, public opinion could change because there are sane individuals there.
This is the other thing, right? So because part of the mainstream narrative is that Israel, as the only Jewish state, is supported worldwide by Jewish population, kind of unquestionably, and that whatever the Israeli state does is supported. And then on top of that, they deny some of the things they do. So you get this real grey area. So I don't know if you remember, you had Palestinian prisoners being raped by gangs of Israeli men, right? And this was kind of never really accepted by the mainstream news. But anything that is accepted, other stuff, they say you shouldn't criticize because that's anti-Semitic. The reason that you're criticizing what Israel is doing is because of some inbuilt anti-Semitism in you. So there's this constant like mixing of these two things by supporters of Israel.
Yep.
And what's increasingly happening is people are disgusted by what's going on in Israel. And they're constantly being told that when you're disgusted by that, you're actually, it's Jewish people that you are disgusted by. And it's Jewish people that are doing this action, and it's to do with being Jewish. And so I can see, like, there has been a lot of bullshit anti-Semitism over the last few years, particularly in the Labour Party, and people have been critical to Israel. But increasingly, that will become actual anti-Semitism. I think there'll be like 1 week. There'll be 1 week where everyone will have like a rational, balanced view of Israel, and then we'll tip over from weaponization of anti-Semitism to real anti-Semitism. I mean, one of the reasons being the national, this sort of people that are in sort of nationalism. And you can see that there's a sort of projection by, you've never been there, man. What's his face?
Douglas Murray.
Douglas Murray. That when Dave Smith's critical of Israel, he immediately is like, oh, be careful there. Be careful what you're doing. I know that you're not anti-Semitic, but your listeners, you're going to be critical of Israel. You're going to spark in people an anti-Semitic thing. And it's like, no, what he's doing is he's projecting his own views of Muslims, which is like his problem with people from Palestine and whatever is that they're Muslim. It's not a geopolitical problem. It's much more to do with what they are. And so when you're critical of Israel for geopolitical reasons, he instinctively thinks, oh, you don't like Jews. You see Muslims as better than Jews. You're putting Jews below, like there's a hierarchy here. It's like, no, I don't like the Israeli action. And Israeli is the powerful state. And also Israeli is the state that the country that I supposedly have a say in, the UK, is supporting. So that's what I don't like about it. Hamas were obviously fucking horrible, violent people. I mean, they dress very cool. But that's not enough, even for me, even for a hipster fashionista like me. Hamas, a horrendous terrorist organization, absolutely. But within the framework of what's going on, they're also forced into a position of meeting violence with violence, because otherwise they're not going to have any way of pushing their agenda, right? So, but you know, the way that they see is, oh, you like Hamas, you love Muslims, you love Muslim culture, you want European, you want Judeo-Christian culture to fall and be replaced by Islamic, you know, it's just like, it's all this kind of shit. It's nothing to do with, because this obsession with national identity and that your identity is that, and that you have to fight for that against these competing ideologies, which is just not. It's just completely.
It's not where I'm. It's not where I'm.
It's just two different conversations. That's what it is that you see.
But I guess it's also But one of the conversations is by people obsessed with identity, nationalism, race, ethnicity, and also with some of those people being complete fucking Fruit Loops.
And they say that they hate identity politics as well.
Yeah, they hate identity politics, but their whole self is built on ethnic supremacy.
But anyway, I don't know if I finished my point about Pierre Oberon. So he was listing all of the directives that are in the IDF. Like the Hannibal Directive and the Deira Directive.
Don't know if I know that one.
It's it's the Israel strategy involving large-scale destruction of civilian infrastructure to cause kind of terror within the population.
Sometimes called terrorism.
No, it's a directive of the military.
Right. Yeah.
Only terrorists do terrorism.
Sorry.
But anyway, so these kind of things that are obviously well known, and you can see them being discussed online all the time, never discussed in the BBC. And so again, it's part of this void where you don't understand. You don't understand when you hear that Israel has shot its own hostages or blown up a hospital.
It's sausages, if you don't mind.
Yeah, or burnt their own sausages, right? You're like, why have they done this? And you're like, they're a good military. Why would you what could you possibly come to the conclusion that they're killing civilians? There must be something in you and your hatred of Jewish people, because why would a military do that? And then it's like, well, look at the fucking doctrine of the actual military, how it's run. That is their. So if the BBC don't report that, then they are in fact sort of pushing this anti-Semitic narrative, right? Because they're not explaining that the IDF as a military force have this way of doing things, right? Anyway, conspiracy theories, Matt.
Go on then.
Oh, you're tired now.
I'm a bit tired.
Yeah.
Did an hour.
I don't think we've even done an hour. Last time you lied. You said we'd done an hour and we'd done 50 minutes.
No, really?
Yeah. Well, I think you set the timer from the moment we started, but then we didn't start because you were probably fucking around with your microphone or something.
Okay. Well, we'll just do whatever you want to do.
What's your time now? What time do you make it?
Well, I make it 7 minutes past 12, and I thought I started the camera at 11, and then I reckon you took a few minutes to set. Oh, we took a few minutes to set up, didn't we? But even so, we recorded from the start. I reckon it's probably been 58 minutes. Let's do conspiracy theories in 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, so let's look this
as well as a sign off.
We're not going to get through it like this, are we, Matt? So declassified UK.
I'm recording on this camera now, and I'm going to do amusing and insulting asides.
Yeah, whatever gets you through it, Matt. Whatever gets you through what's going on. Declassified UK, 17th of June. Wes Streeting mixes with tech billionaires at Bilderberg Summit.
Oh.
So if you attempt to try and unearth what's actually going on, obviously you can't, because there's very little journalism of it, and these kind of meetings are very secretive. And when you bring up something like Bilderberg, people are immediately like, that's insane. Why are you bringing up Bilderberg? You're a conspiracy theory crazy person. It's like, well, I'm not saying that they run the world, but it's obviously an event that's important. Our health secretary, whose time is very valuable, spent 3 days at this summit on the taxpayer's buck. So it just might be worth having a passing interest in what's going on with these things. Yep. Anyway, so this is Hannah Borno, and she reported on it. Obviously not being there.
Yeah,
she's reported on it.
You can't go as a journalist.
Yeah. So part of the article, she managed to catch Wes Streeting as he was leaving to get a taxi to the airport, and asked him about it. He didn't say anything. And I don't know where they've got the rest of this information from. Maybe just binoculars and telescopes. There's like what's that metal thing with the big where you can listen? It's like a binocular for your ears.
The old ladies have as a horn to listen.
Yeah, like a horn, but you get a really big one, so it could go across the sea.
Yeah.
Anyway, she says UK Health Secretary Wes Streeting ignored questions from the media as he left the annual Bilderberg meeting at the Grand Hotel in Stockholm, Sweden on Sunday. Streeting, who fancies himself as a future Prime Minister, spent the weekend rubbing shoulders with over 120 politicians